Great, so thank you for hanging in with us up until this point. We were going to have another keynote with Osman Kelliker, who is the Managing Director of Earth Group, but unfortunately he's come down really unwell today and he hasn't been able to make it, so it moves our schedule ahead a bit quicker, and it means that we can basically now move to our third and final panel, which really looks at the UAE's property markets and the next big moves around it. And here we also have a very interesting set of speakers. I'd like to call onto stage our moderator, Dr. Anand Menon, who is the CEO of Lion Edge Consultancy. You can please give him a big round of applause. And joining Dr. Anand is Daniel Hardy, who is the CEO of England Falkers Middle East. And with him is Louis Harding, who is also the CEO of Better Homes UAE. And then finally, we've also got Imran Farouk. I didn't see him here earlier today, but yeah, if he's not here, that's not an issue. I think we've got enough of a session here really to get going, and there should be enough interesting talking points and discussions.
Yeah.
Great. Over to you, Dr. Anand.
All right, good morning, everyone. And since I have two panelists with me, I guess you guys get more airtime for speaking, right? Okay. He's here. Okay, cool.
It's a shame. I love talking about myself.
Okay, so the theme for the whole day has been looking forward for real estate, particularly in Dubai and also some of our neighboring Emirates. Now, when we look at the Dubai market, particularly, it is one of the most dynamic, one of the most visible, and definitely one of the most talked about markets. In addition, it is one of the top performing markets in the world. So sometimes there can be a lot of speculation, a lot of hype, a lot of noise out there, but there is also a lot of data, a lot of stats, and some very credible reports to show that what's happening in our city is not just chaotic construction, but it is a more engineered evolution that's going forward. So I think what I would like to focus on today is for all of us to shed light on where do we see this city going forward and what are the trends that we can see coming in, the disruptive trends as well. Sheikh Mohammed famously quoted that the future belongs to those who can imagine it, who can design it, and who can execute it. That's what we see as an engineered city here. And we're built on plans. I don't want to get into the plans because I want to give the floor to you guys. So just an example, we have the Dubai Economic Agenda, the D33. We have the Dubai Social Agenda, the S33. We have the Education Agenda, the E33. We have the 2040 Master Plans. You've got the Quality of Life. So there's a lot going on the basis of which the city is engineering itself. So Daniel, my first question would be to you is, in the light of everything that is happening in Dubai actually taking center stage on a global level, what is the expectations of the homeowners coming in here, and what do you see in terms of the buying trends as they are evolving?
I think for the first time ever, we've got a different level of buyer coming here. I think for the first time ever, we've got Europeans are probably the #1 buyers. If you ask most developers, that's the case. And I think the best thing about that, with a different level of buyer coming here, is a different level of expectation and standards. I think gone are the days where you could just chuck a building up with cement and a few windows and people will come and buy it. I think there's a level now where amenities are important, size is important, layouts, and quality. I think I've been here pretty much my whole adult life. I've been here for 15 years now. And I think anyone that's been in that time is used to say, no, it's just sort of Dubai, you get on with it. But the level of people coming now just won't tolerate that and won't stand for it, which is amazing because it means build quality is going up, it means amenities going up, branded residence obviously is on the rise. So I think it's super exciting. I think this trend actually started pre-COVID. I think a lot of people think that COVID, it was a huge, obviously, step up for us, but The changes that happened just before that around company ownership. A good friend of mine was head of Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson, one of the biggest companies in the world, are never going to let 51% be owned by an Emirati. And with the changes just before that, they're now onshore. They brought, I think, 15,000 people, minimum salary of, say, 25,000 dirhams. It's a different level of buyer. And again, the majority of them coming from Europe and from the States and from the Americas. So yeah, super exciting.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you. We now have 196 of the Fortune 500 companies having their regional head offices. That's 40% of them have chosen Dubai. Saudi Arabia also is getting quite a few. So now, we've also seen this new trend or new interest being shown with investors from Canada, from the US, Australia, in the ASEAN countries, particularly Singapore is becoming a big player in the local market. Now, when you look at the profile of all these buyers, and this question I would be addressing to Louis, when you look at them, they're very heavily data-driven. Okay, they want transparency, because it's the first thing. Anyone who has ever gone to a Singapore market will realize the first thing they look at is data, trends, actual reports. So how do you see the Dubai market actually meeting that requirement, since we are finding now very evolved buyers, people who have come from cities which have extremely matured in terms of how real estate opportunities have been offered. So how do you see the future of the Dubai market in terms of the transparency of data, access to different kinds of data, AI being a big player in that?
Sure. So I think the biggest headline is that Dan's adult life is only 15 years. I think that's probably the biggest surprise so far this morning. I think also, just to add to Dan's point, I think that change we're seeing in the type of demographic of people moving here, I think it's going to have a really positive influence on whatever the next downturn looks like, because we're seeing that it's a much higher percentage of end users now than it's ever been. And as we know, that when there is a downturn in the marketplace, the great thing about having a high percentage of end users within the market is that it should restrict the amount of supply that would typically then go onto the market. Mature cities like London and New York, the downturn in 2008 wasn't as drastic as it was in other areas of the world, and that's primarily because it's an end user market. And what happened is that you saw supply drop by about 50%. So it meant that prices remained relatively stable, and I think that's going to be a really positive thing for Dubai whenever this current bull cycle comes to an end. In terms of more data, more information, listen, I think everyone wants to make informed decisions in everything in life, right? You know, I think it sort of doesn't matter what it is. You don't want to be going into it blind, and more transparency and more data and more information is always going to be a good thing. I think from your perspective, what you're talking about from an investor perspective, particularly overseas, it just gives more credibility and confidence to the decision-making process. If you're not ingrained in the market, there is always that nervousness about how it operates, how realistic the pricing is. And that's always going to be there if the information is subjective. But if it's objective, it makes the decision-making process very easy. I think it also helps from, again, an end-user perspective, because it removes the subjectivity. And it should, again, in theory, mean that the market remains more stable over a longer period of time, because it should also take away the manipulation in a marketplace that can occur when you don't have access to really clear data. There's also a massive play as well with developers in terms of pricing, yields, best place to operate. So it should be a wholly positive thing, whether it's an end user, whether it's B2B, B2C, developer wanting to decide on the best strategy. But it also, though, falls into that cliche that there's also a really big difference between knowledge and wisdom. So you can have all the data and all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have the wisdom to make appropriate decisions off the back of it, then it's sort of irrelevant, really.
Okay, so now in terms of, we've seen the millennial migrations happening a lot into Dubai. We are actually number one for the last 2 years, and I believe it's going to continue even more. And we are also seeing, because people are coming in from parts of the world that were never coming in before, cultures, lifestyles, their expectations, because they all have a frame of reference in their mind. So this question of mine is going to go to Imran. So when we see now a very diversified set of buyers coming into the market, as a developer who's been in the market for a very long time, how are you actually coming up with strategies so that the products that you are creating now are innovative and you can actually take care of every type of buyer that's coming into the market? So what are some strategies at Samana that you guys are looking at?
Thank you. Yeah, this is true that Dubai, has become a magnet of attraction. It is attracting people from all over the world. And we have seen this big change, sorry for my throat, but we have seen this big change pre-COVID, post-COVID, that we have seen markets opening literally every 6 months. We tend to believe that, okay, India is doing well, then all of a sudden, you believe France is doing well, then Germany, Amsterdam, US, Canada. All these markets are opening up, and that's one of the reasons why Dubai is #1 destination for attracting millionaire. And the difference between Dubai #1 and US #2 is Dubai attracted double the amount US attracted. Sorry. So that's a welcome data. But at the same time, we need to remind ourselves that when 3,300 millionaires go to US is such a big market. Dubai is such a small market, and double the amount of millionaire comes. Their preference, their taste, their lifestyle is pretty different. One investor you meet is rental yield driven. He's planning his retirement. He is just wants to put up a stable income for his family. The other one wants to set up a family office and comes with a huge wish list. Best villa, best cars, best offices, multi-floor setups, and things like that. One of the family wants a hop-on, hop-off thing. So the buyer's demand, sorry, Ken, the buyer's expectation have actually gone to the next level, right? And as a developer, you can no longer be a developer offering one kind of variety. So if you are in downtown, just keep doing the downtown. The demand on the mainstream developer is to produce a variety of product, be it townhouse, be it villas, be it super villas, offices. Last 12 months, the best performing asset is commercial offices. They have done the best by far. Retail is the second best product. Retail was producing well, very stable income, but if you look at the prices of retail, in last 18 months, they have gone 250%. Offices in last 2 years have almost tripled. The rent has tripled, right? And if this pattern continues, which we expect to continue, the hotels will be the next big thing, right? Student accommodation, people coming with large ticket size, wanting a double-digit fixed rental income or long-term rental income. So student accommodation will be the big thing. The big question here is how the city is going to cope up with the demand of so much construction. Labor camp, that's going to be a big millionaire and billionaire play. Somebody wants to come here, say, I want an 18% return, 20% return. So as a developer, we are aware that all these demands are coming in, and it is important for us to create a very diversified product. And that's the reason we, being a specialist of under 1.5 million, we continue to produce that. We are coming with super villa categories also, hotel space also. We're taking the office space very seriously. The next few launches, starting post-Eid holidays, would be the office space. So, again, in a super villa, customizable is the next big thing. Co-branding is the next big thing.
Thank you, Imran. My next question is to all of you, and we can just take it as a conversation. Now, according to the Dubai Economic Agenda, the D33, we are going to be maintaining our status as #3 in the world in terms of real estate markets and performance. That's the idea, to maintain that by the time we are at 2033. But the goal is to become the #1 market in the world and the #1 city in the world by 2040. Now, I firmly believe that when leadership in the city is looking to take the city to #1, including real estate, ambassadors for this change cannot just be the ruler's office and the government authorities. I strongly believe that this should apply to all of us who are in this industry, that we have to be the advocates and ambassadors. I use a phrase always which says, honey attracts flies. Now, I mean, that's quite true when a market is booming. What are your thoughts in terms of the government stepping up as well, ensuring even more regulation, not just on the developers and the type of product coming in, but also in terms of the agencies, in terms of the development of the brokers who come on board, not just an online RERA exam or something like that, but more in terms of ensuring we put premium agents out into the market, because when you want to be an ambassador for real estate and a lifestyle, then the people in the industry should be the same. Similarly, the quality of investors coming in also. If some people are here just for a quick buck, right? There are certain developers who come in because the market's hot. So what are your thoughts? I'd just like to have a conversation where, as ambassadors for this industry, how do you see the role of the agencies, the developers, and the brokers and salespeople emerging? Because when you have the best city in the world as a goal, you want to give the best buying experience or selling experience, a red carpet experience. So some thoughts on that?
I'll go back to your sort of initial point question, and I'll come on to that. I think everyone's talking about the UK millionaires moving over. I think that's got the headline. I think, just from my perspective, we're obviously a huge international real estate company, so I think got a bit more insight. The main buyers at the moment come from Central Europe, from Germany, from places like this. And we have seen a huge pickup of investors and people coming from the Americas. But actually, we're not. We're calling it a bit of a coming home from the Americas. It's people that have heritage in the Middle East, from India, from Pakistan, from Palestine, wherever. But the main vein of investment has still not come here. I don't think there's any huge institutional investment happening. I was having a really sort of high-end meeting with one of the big banks here, and they think in 2027 we'll start to see that. I think they'll start picking up hotels, to touch on your point, and I think that's really when things will get interesting. I think, again, because I've been in the industry for so long, to go back to your second point, standards are so high now. I remember when I first became an agent here, I came up through the dirt and the mud and sold many properties. Just simply turning up on time you're amazing. You're a top 10 agent just by doing that. And I think it's got so competitive now for the better that standards are raised. People have to innovate. People have to go above and beyond, like you would in a UK market or a main market. So I think we learned our lesson from 2008. I think everyone thought Dubai would come back, and we certainly are there. And we're not going to make the same mistakes we did previously.
Louis?
I think I've probably got a slightly different perspective. I guess Dan's point of reference is the last 15 years, where it's come from. I'm relatively new to Dubai. I've been here 18 months, and I worked in central London real estate for over 20 years previous to that, which is probably the most highly regulated market in the world, I would have thought, or it's certainly getting there. I also worked for a French bank for 6 years of those 20, which didn't help as well, because to say that they were compliant is a bit of an understatement. But the short answer to your question is that I think any real estate firms that don't want more regulation or are nervous about more regulation and more legislation, I think you'd have to question why that is. And I think certainly for businesses that are well run, Engel & Volkers is a very well-run international business. We've been around for nearly 40 years. I think actually sometimes the fact that we do things, quote unquote, the right way, and that we're well-run, we don't necessarily see the advantage of doing that sometimes. And I find that really frustrating. Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but I have really mixed feelings about the market softening and slowing down a little bit. And there's a part of me that quite looks forward to it, because good businesses never, ever, ever gain market share in a high tide. They never do, because we're in a marketplace at the moment where almost anyone can sell and anyone can let. And good businesses gain market share when things are tough. The business that I was in back in London, we gained amazing market share in 2008, 2009, 2010 during the financial crisis. We didn't gain market share in 5, 6, and 7 when things are amazing. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's really important from a world stage perspective, because I think our reputation in certain areas of the world is that we're still not there at the same levels. And I think our reputation is that the quality of the professionals within the real estate industry is not at the same levels as maybe a New York or a London. So I do think it's important from a credibility and a confidence perspective. But it's really important that as it comes in, it's well communicated, that businesses have time to react to it in time. You know, there's a long runway to say this is coming in, so we can then put effective processes and systems in place to ensure that it doesn't become too much of a blocker to the actual transactional side of the business. But honestly, I would welcome it.
Imran?
I believe Dubai has set the standards right, and generally we should not over-regulate. So Dubai has digital contracts, marketing permits, escrow accounts, and so on and so forth. The issue here is that rather than over-regulating, we should go on awareness drive, right? So every time you go to a real estate company, you can scan a barcode, you can understand there should be awareness about the escrow account, that the buyers pay in the escrow account, and things like that. That is a solution to part of a problem which is happening at the smaller developers' end. At the same time, in the brokerage, it is quite regulated. There are complaint procedures. There's a 50,000 dirham fine. So quality real estate brokerage, which would be 90%, are very regulated. They take this as their full-time job, and they take it pretty seriously. But again, the sum of the people who are taking this as a part-time, that could be an awareness. Setting a booth at the mall, know your rights is a way out, rather than over-regulating the environment. Also, the digital contracts works extremely well. What can be done is something like Google review. So every time there's a transaction, whether you're renting a property, whether you are buying a property, whether you're reselling a property, so DLD, Google review comes up, and then you can see the broker or the developer and see their rating also. I think that is a way forward, and I think all three of us are against over-regulating further, but good standards do exist.
All right, completely agree on that. So one last question from my side, again to all of you. If I had to give each of you a magic wand, okay, and if there was one thing that you would like to see change in our market so that we become even better in the future, what would that one thing be?
Without being controversial, I think there's a bit of a laugh there. I think everyone's now waiting to hear what I say. I have been PR trained a little bit better in the last 12 months, thanks to Diana. I would say that the buyer's power here, it needs to be more heavily regulated. I'm not going to use the actual term that's common in the marketplace, but I think good brokers are constantly undercut by smaller brokers on fees when buying off-plan. And if you want to have a consistent market where standards are validated, then that needs to be looked at. So my one wish would be to stronger rules about how commission is distributed between real estate companies and buyers. And I'm sure everyone can read between the lines what I'm saying on the rest.
Hey, Louis?
I think mine would probably be some kind of regulation around having to pay a seller's and landlord's fee. I find it very, very odd that we're still in a marketplace where that sometimes doesn't exist, and I think it can lead to behaviours that aren't necessarily the best and don't then, as a result, necessarily represent the buyer and the landlord as well as they possibly could or should. I find that quite a strange thing that actually occurs, because the knock-on effect of that, I think, is quite significant. The other thing, and I know you only asked for one, but the other thing is also, I'd love to be able to speed up the journey that we're going on around AI, because what I find amazing in this industry, and it's a bit of a byproduct of being such a bull market, is that there is just so much waste. The amount of wastage is just unbelievable. So efficiencies around that, things like agentic AI, which if any of you need a lesson on it, I can talk to you about it later. I have no idea what it is. I found out yesterday.
Yeah. Imran?
Well, as a developer, I would wish a task force is set up by the authorities, watching the non-escrow developments being flooded in the market, and penalizing both the developers who violate the escrow and the real estate agencies who continue to violate the non-escrow rules. One. Number two, for the support of the brokers, I think it's very important that anybody who wants to list their property, there should be a timeline, 30 days, 45 days, where they list their property through the digital forms, of course, and they're bound to sell at that level. So that's going to clear up a lot of space and struggle of the brokerage industry. Often the major complaint from the brokers community is buyer is there, seller was asking 15 million, we worked hard. By the time we got the check, says no, now the price is 16.5 million. So that needs to be regulated, and that's going to make the broker's life easy. I can see the smiles.
Like Louis mentioned, it's not knowledge, it's wisdom. So thank you for the wisdom, guys. If you have any questions now for the panel, just raise your hands and we'll come across to you with the mic.
Come on, Joel. Can't sit in the front row and ask a question, Joel.
Pass me a mic and I'm going to get that one through. Sorry, where was the hand up? Yeah.
Hello, sir. Thank you. Sir, this is regarding, I'm asking on behalf of our kids. We see that most of the kids are playing around near to the roadsides or the parking lots and all. So you have any plan to maintain a playground for them? At least I know that there is a lot of indoor facilities available, but still, for the outdoors, if you something in the corners of the city, that will be very grateful for the kids. Thank you.
Kids? Well, I mean, there's the obvious challenge with outdoor activities and kids being in the Middle East. To be honest, I don't think I agree with that. I think there's so much, again, I've been here 15 years. Back then you had JBR, and it wasn't as nice as the JBR that we've got today. And a few private beaches. There's no kite beach like the way it is. I think there's so much more outdoor areas for kids of all ages to enjoy now. It feels like every week a new thing is popping up, whether it's indoor or outdoor. But I think, again, when you complete in with places like London, where the population in just that one city is, 3 times, 4 times the size of Dubai, I think you'd struggle not to find something to do on the weekend here. So maybe sorry, couldn't quite hear the question properly, but yeah, I don't know if I agree. I think there's lots of outdoor activities there.
There is two sides of the story. One is, as a consumer, we would like to see a park right next door. And from the authority point of view, they have pressure to bring more units to the city. So economically, Dubai is sustainable, right? Because this rent increase year on year is a big challenge, big economic challenge. So there has to be a constant supply, so the rent increase cools off. There are bigger areas in Dubai, and the authority is doing their bit, but yes, there is a general feeling that the park next door got replaced by something else. From the authority level, they are doing bigger initiative. There are parks, it's just few kilometers away, and so that is there also. So yes, a balanced approach is definitely required, but it is being catered into new master plans.
Great, thank you very much. I think we're going to wrap it up there. I'd like for everybody just to give all our panelists a big round of applause, please. Thank you so much, gentlemen.